Welcome to the Worth Listening podcast, where we focus on having positive and productive conversations around money. I'm your host, Lauren, a 4-time Olympian and certified financial planner. On this show, my guests share their money stories. Everyone has a unique story and experiences both wins and losses when it comes to money. My intent is to give listeners something they can relate to, something that builds their courage to be open and take control of their own money story. When I'm not creating a great show for my listeners, I'm running my company, Worth Winning, where I help individuals and families organize their finances. Check us out at worth-winning.com. All right, now on with the show. Football season is upon us, so I wanted to take a moment to shout out some of the NFL players we've had share their money memoir with us. Clinton Portis, Kelly Jennings, Justin Forsett, DJ Williams, and Marcus Ogden. Thanks so much for being on the show. If you're a football fan, you're definitely going to want to go back and listen to those episodes, and I'll make it easy for you by putting them in the show notes. Today's guest is not an NFL player, but a Navy veteran. Latoya Rush is a busy lady working as a professor teaching surgical technology and as a chef, caterer, and food blogger as well. Her goal is to eventually transition her catering business to full-time. I think many can relate to trying to leave their 9-to-5 to pursue entrepreneurship full-time. Latoya talks to us about what inspired her to join the Navy right out of high school and why the transition to civilian life is so hard for many. Her transition was so tough, it resulted in her losing everything. When she got back on her feet, she hit the ground running to fix her finances. She shares how she did that and how it got her to where she is today. Let's listen to Latoya share her money memoir. Latoya, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I am excited to get to know more about you, but first we got to tell our listeners more about you. So why don't you just start by just giving us a little breakdown of where you're from, how you grew up, what kind of money environment it was, or what kind of things you remember about money in your early childhood.
Well, right now I'm a chef and a caterer. I'm also a Navy vet and a healthcare traveler. That's how I ended up in Los Angeles. I grew up in Georgia, in the rural area of Georgia. Money was something we didn't really talk about. So it wasn't a conversation as into really how to manage money.
Did you have siblings growing up?
Yeah, I'm the oldest out of 4 siblings. My dad, he was the breadwinner in the house. He's retired Army also. And we just knew he took care of everything. That was it. There was no, how do you pay bills? We just knew the bills got paid. There was no talk about savings. It was just there.
Did you feel like you had a lot or a little, or you knew you just had enough? Or looking back on it now, some people say, oh, looking back on it, I realized that we didn't have a lot, but my parents didn't let me know that we didn't have a lot. Or what was it like now, looking back on what kind of environment you grew up in?
It seemed like we had a lot. There was 4 of us and we were military brats. So that's the life we grew up in. My dad didn't retire until I was like 22 years old. So it didn't seem like we were without much, but it just was no real talk as to how the bills got paid on time. What do you do with credit cards? There was no talk of that. So all of that came as an adult. Money management, things like that. My dad, he's very strong financially, but we just never talked about. We didn't realize that till we were older. How my dad saved money, how he spent money, how he would put certain amount of money aside for this, certain amount of money aside for that. But we never learned about it until we got older. When we were kids, we were just kids.
That's awesome. What about allowance? Did you guys have like an allowance?
No.
You had chores, but no reward for those chores.
No. If you want something, you just ask for it. But that whole getting something a week, no, that was not happening. And plus, there was 4 of us, so it was like, nah.
What about a piggy bank?
Yeah, we had piggy banks, but I think they were for decoration or something.
No real saving was happening there. That was just something to set on the nightstand.
No, we would get fair change and use it for the ice cream truck or something, but it wasn't a method to it. It was just, oh, this piggy bank is cute. Can I have it? Yeah, you can have it. And oh, let me have some change to put into it. You get some change from your parents or your grandparents, and then you take it out a little later and you're like, oh, it's full, and you have fun with it. But it was not like a talk where, okay, you save this much amount of money, or anytime I give you quarters, put it in there. There was no talk. You just fill the piggy bank up because it's cute.
Right. More something to do.
Yeah.
What about family vacations? Were you able to travel and do things together?
Well, my dad was military. I mean, we lived in Germany for 3 years, so that was the vacation. We traveled while we were in Germany, but taking long trips far, far away, no. We did things like go fishing because we live on the coastal end of Georgia. So we went fishing, or my grandparents stayed maybe 2 hours away. So we didn't have to go far to visit extended family. We lived maybe an hour away from Florida. So, I mean, everything was close. We didn't take Disney trips or go somewhere for like 2 weeks. We didn't do any of that. It was just mainly little small family things like fishing, mainly fishing trips.
I mean, I love fishing though. That's one of the things that is a good pastime, is a good way for everybody to be together, and it doesn't cost a lot of money.
Yeah, well, I don't have that type of patience anymore. It was fun when I was a kid. Now I can't believe we sat outside this long. And,
So,
but she loves it. She loves going with my dad fishing. That's the main thing she wants to do when she sees him, go fishing.
so maybe it's just a thing that kids can do, but it's not something to sustain in the long term for your family.
No, not at all.
So what about as you got through your teenage years? Did you get a job at the first opportunity you had, age 15 or 16? Did you get a car right then? What did that look like?
Oh, well, I got my first job at 16. I'm the oldest. And come to think about it, I'm the only person who worked in high school. Nobody else worked in high school. I got my job at 15. My uncle was a manager. He was going through college, but he was a manager and in Subway. And I was just one of them kids. Ooh, I got to work. I just want to have a job. Everybody else got a job, so I want a job.
Did you want a job because you wanted money, or you want a job just because everybody else had a job?
I don't even know. It was just a high school thing. You see your friends, oh, you going to work at such and such. I want to feel like I was doing something.
Right. Yeah. It's like the first semblance of grown up life.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember I used to spend money on donuts or something. It wasn't a money thing. It was, oh, I need to be grown.
Why do you feel like you were the only one that worked in high school?
Nobody else had a job.
But they got to high school and they just like, man, I don't want to.
Well, I'm the oldest by 4 years. And then there's my sister, 4 years younger than me. And then a brother, he's 3 years younger than her. And then the baby, he's 5 years younger than the youngest. So we're pretty spaced out. My sister, I mean, she didn't seem as independent. My parents was like, nah, nah, you don't need to work. Just chill out, do your schoolwork. My brother, he plays sports. So they didn't want him to play sports and work. It was either or. So of course he played sports all the way through high school. And then the baby, he was a baby. So he got to high school. He would work in the summer with my dad. But like during the school year, holding down a job, no, nah, you're not working. So, but me, I was the oldest and I just had to work. There is no keeping me in the house. I want to work.
Right. But I mean, some perks come with being the oldest. Like you said, you're the first one to turn 16. So were you able to get a car? Did they have to share a car with your parents?
My dad gave me one of his cars. He had a really old car, but it wasn't when I turned 16. It was my senior year of high school.
Okay.
He gave me his old car and he had to go to Korea for a few months. And so I got to keep that car. He came back and it was just my car for my senior year. But they didn't go out and buy me a car. It was an old car that I got to use as mine.
Gotcha. So what happened after senior year then? Was the path heading to college, or did it take you somewhere else? Where did life take you?
Well, I got into Grambling State. I knew ever since I was a kid I was going to Grambling. I always knew I was going to go to Grambling. I didn't even consider other colleges. So I got into Grambling State and my birthday is January. I turned 18 in January. And you know how in high school, most high schools have those military recruiters just walking around talking, and I would be nice to one. I'd be, oh, hi, how are you? And This Navy recruiter, she started talking about traveling, and that's my biggest thing. I was like, oh, you get to travel? And she's like, yeah, and paying for college and things like that. And I told my parents I wanted to go to the military. They were totally against it. My dad, he's like I told you, he's retired Army. So he definitely didn't want me to go. He was still in the military at the time. He was like, oh, no, 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 no.
Why do you think it was no? You think it was based on his experiences, or like, did he have an inside scoop, or is like he just didn't want his babies subject to whatever the military was?
Well, I went to the Navy. So he didn't know anything about the Navy. And the only thing in his head, oh, it's a bunch of water and you with a bunch of men on a boat by yourself. And no, you can't do that. And I spent 20 years in, and you don't want to do that, because now I'm the same way. I do not want my daughter even considering the military whatsoever. So I guess it's from your experience. It is something good to start out with, because it's quick money. If you're one of those kids, you don't know what you want to do in life, go to the military. And in the meantime, you get paid while you're still confused.
Right. I like that. You get paid while you're confused, because we are. Everybody's been the 18 to 21 range, and look, sometimes a lot longer confused.
Exactly. I didn't want to go to, because even when I went to college, or when I got enrolled in college, my go-to thing, it was the default degree, psychology. I really didn't even know what I wanted to do. I was just, oh, I'm a major in psychology. Most of my friends were saying the same thing. We really didn't know what we wanted to do. And for the most part, none of us are doing what we said we were going to do after we graduated high school. We don't even have the same interest anymore. So everybody has a totally different profession of what we thought we were going to major in and things like that. So I'm glad I did use the military, because it came with benefits. And for as young as I was, I still had my own income. I was able to experience different things, and I got to make up my mind and see, okay, what is it that you really want to do, as opposed to sitting at home on my parents' couch trying to figure it out.
Right. So what was it like when you got that first paycheck and the process kind of got rolling and you're like, okay, I'm in now. I'm an adult and I got to decide what to do with this money. You may have been living on base or something. Maybe you didn't have a lot of expenses, but you still had this paycheck and you had to decide what to do as a grown up. Do you remember what that feeling was like and how that kind of played out for you?
Well, the first 2 months we were on base, so we didn't do anything. We're in boot camp. I'm not gonna lie, my first instinct, soon as graduation come, I was like, I'm a ball till you fall. Make sure I take my baby brother shopping, his first year of school. And me and the youngest brother, we're the closest. We're 12 years apart. So it was his first time ever experiencing me not being home. He didn't understand that I was an adult. So he actually thought I was on a field trip and I was going to come back soon, because my parents didn't tell him at first, okay, she doesn't live here. So he didn't understand that. So I was like, oh, okay, when I come out, I'm going to go shopping, definitely flying back home. I'm buying plane tickets. I'm doing this and that. So I felt like, okay, now I'm an adult. I still didn't know what to do with the money. Saving it wasn't even in my head. I was thinking that you can save money, but I just didn't really think about sit down and say, okay, let's save it, save X amount of dollars out of each paycheck. But it was like way in the back of my mind somewhere.
Right. Did the military offer any financial guy or person? Is there a place you can go? They always talk about the military resources that are available. Is there a finance 101 class that they make you guys sit through, or a person you can go to if you want help with that?
Not at all. Most of us, we had to do it on our own. And to me, that was one of the things that I did like about the military, even though it wasn't good, was you learned everything by experience. So at 22, I was way more mature than other 22-year-olds who were just getting out of college, because I had already been to maybe 2, 3 countries. I already had the experience being around people who were different than me or spoke a different language, and how to maneuver myself. Or if I have to move from one duty station to another, I already knew how to get all my stuff together to move from one state to another state. The experience made me a lot more mature in areas where I saw other people that were kind of like, okay, so what do you do for that? And it's like, oh, you've never done that before, or things of that nature. But the resources in the military were very, very limited. It was always this sink or swim type of mentality. Or we want you to do this, or this is how you do this. Okay, now go do it. There is no, well, let me show you step by step.
Right. Well, what about your military buddies or your, I don't know, your comrades,
Yeah.
whatever the proper term, your peers? What was their attitude about money? Is there a general kind of ball till you fall sort of attitude for everyone at that age? Or are people talking about money? Is there that one responsible individual in the group? Or are you filling out paperwork for you guys have TSP, right? So is someone saying, oh, I don't understand this. Girl, can you help me with it? Or how did you do yours? Or is there any conversations?
No, well, you would ask questions. It would always be someone older there, but most of us were fresh out of high school. A lot of us came from different situations to where either we weren't taught about money, or some people, they were taught about money, but it was a negative way. They always needed it. So it was just so many different experiences to where we didn't really sit down and have financial conversation. We were always, it would be an older person that would tell us about the thrift savings plan, but it was always in the back of our mind. We're 18 years old. We trying to go to the club every weekend. That's it. It was always somebody in the clique that had to send money home. Oh, right. It was always somebody who came from poverty. It was always somebody who just came from a rich family and had no idea about money. They was, oh, I'm just here because my parents told me I couldn't stay home.
Right.
We had so many different personalities to where no one really sat at that age and talked about it. Most times when people bring up money in the military, we're trying to get out of the military. And now we need to figure out, okay, what do we do? Because the civilian world, they're not equipped to take veterans. It's so different. The transition is so crazy.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. So you go from military life to deciding you want to transition into life after the military. And what does that look like for you? How does that play out? Like you said, you got to get a job, you got to figure it out. How is the transition from military to civilian life?
Well, it depends on who you have around. With me, because I was the oldest sibling, it was like I had to do everything on my own. My dad was still in the military when I got out of the military. So with him, he hadn't even been a civilian yet. And then when he did get out, the city that we're from in Hinesville, it is a military base. So he had a job waiting. I didn't go to a military town. First, I went to Atlanta, and then I went to my birthplace, which is Perry, Georgia. And they're just not used to military people.
What were you trained in? So what were you doing in the military, and what kind of work were you looking for?
I was a surgical tech, so I was a surgical assistant. So for us, everything, we were very, very independent in the military. We had a chain of command. We followed certain rules, but we were expected to be very efficient with little to no help. Getting out of the military, you have to learn how their chain of command works, because it's not as structured as the military when you go to certain places. We're used to a direct chain of command. You learn it, of course, but it's hard trying to, okay, now I got to turn the military off.
So was it hard? You were interviewing for jobs as a surgical assistant and you just felt like you weren't going to fit in, or you think the interviews weren't going well because you didn't understand the way that it worked in civilian world?
Kinda. And with the civilians, they needed so many certifications. With us, we're military. We've already done it. So I'm going to have a job because I know how to do this already. And with civilians, you can have 20 years experience. They forever want some type of certification. It's like, how many certifications do I need?
So a lot of those things that you were doing, you weren't necessarily certified to do in the military, but you got to the regular world and they're like, you need some more education for this. And you're like, no, I know how to do this for sure. But they're like, no, without this certificate, you don't.
Yeah, no, it wasn't the education. They just needed the actual certification. They have, okay, if you move to one state, we need a certification for this state. It wasn't, because I had the education, but even now with our job, now that I teach the job, I do teach my students on a degree level. They leave here with an associate's degree, but that does not mean they're going to get a job. They still have to take a national certification exam in order to get hired. So people don't have to hire them if they don't want to, even though they have the associate's degree. So with the military, it was the same thing. We didn't hear anything about certification. It didn't matter.
So how long did it end up taking you to get a job, or what happened next?
First, I lost everything I had.
Uh-oh. So tell us more. Tell us more now.
Okay, so I moved to Atlanta. My daughter was 1 year old. So I knew for a fact I was going to move back home. I was like, I don't want to live outside the state anymore. So I knew for a fact I was going to move home. My daughter was young, family's there. So it made sense. I get there, get an apartment. I got a townhouse because I was still basically getting paid from the military for my first few months out. I just did not know it was going to be that hard. Everywhere I went, they wanted all kinds of certifications, and it didn't even matter that I was in the military. It didn't even matter. And that's why when people are always, oh, the military, this, y'all really don't support us. Stop playing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if y'all don't, stop playing. Because my baby brother got out, I helped him because I had already been through the same thing. So there were certain things that he was able to avoid. But it took so long at first.
Like how long? Like 6 months or?
Oh my goodness. It took, now I got evicted out of my first apartment at maybe 3 months. I lost my car 6 months after that. By this time, I was staying with an aunt and uncle.
So 9 months already, you've been without a job. You have a 1-year-old daughter.
Yes.
And you've been looking for work from, like you said, day one that you got out of the military.
Yes. Then I moved with my great grandmother in Perry, Georgia. My aunt found me a job. It wasn't what I was doing. It was just an office assistant in a medical office, but I was only making minimum wage. So I had to count. But at this point in time, I don't even have a car anymore. I don't have anything. So, when your car gets repossessed, you still got to pay back that money for whatever they settled it for. So my dad paid half because he was a co-signer on the car. So I just didn't have the money. So my dad went ahead and he paid over half and said, okay, you need to be responsible for the other half. So eventually I got that other half paid off, but it was just like running in circles.
I mean, and were you taking on other debt at this time too? Because you said you didn't have the ability to pay for the car, but you also had to live for 9 months, feed yourself, feed your daughter.
Yes, exactly. So I had to do that. Thankfully, I had so much family. My daughter, she stayed with my parents for a little while. My work hours, the way they worked while I was at work, because our family did. We like a billion aunts and uncles. So while I was at work, there was somebody to take care of her because I had no way to pay for daycare. The way government assistance work is not that easy. They were taking into account that I had been in the military. So everything wasn't given to me as quickly as I thought it would be, like the medical benefits or the food stamps or housing assistance. I never even got housing assistance. So they were taking it, oh, well, you were in the military, you got benefits for this, you just got off unemployment. So they were taking into account all these kind of crazy things. So it was kind of like me being a military service member was working against, because they were like, oh, well, you got your medical benefits all the way up until this day. And it's like, yeah, but I need a job still.
Right.
So, I still need money. So in the meantime, could you give me some assistance for this? It was a loophole for everything.
Yeah.
So they had me jumping through all kinds of hoops. So I worked minimum wage and I got out of the military in 2004. I stayed completely unemployed until February 2005. That's when I first got my first job. I ended up there. And then I ended up at another job working at a gas station for minimum wage. Well, a little over minimum wage. Then I decided to go to the cosmetology school because I needed extra money. So I went to cosmetology school because I got my GI Bill. My GI Bill was the extra income.
Mm.
So regardless of whether or not I worked as a hairstylist, which I never did, I still had that extra $1,000 coming in. And that's what I needed.
What happened to Grambling though? You weren't interested in going back at that time when you got the GI Bill?
I wasn't even, my mind wasn't even anywhere near anything that had to do with relocating because I didn't have the money to relocate.
Right.
So no, that wasn't there. Then I finally got a job working back in the OR. I met somebody at a gas station that happened to know my dad. And we just started talking. And he was like, oh, yeah, you're so-and-so's daughter. We started talking. And I said, yeah, tell him I said, hey. He said, yeah, I'm on my lunch. And we just happened to start talking. And he was like, oh, you work in the OR when you're in the military? I was like, yeah. And his girlfriend, she was a director over the OR. And so he asked me to give my dad my resume so he can give it to him at work. And then that's how I got back in the hospital.
Awesome. It's all about who you know. Yes.
Exactly. So then when I got to the hospital, there was this nurse there. They kept calling her the travel nurse, the travel nurse. I'm like, why do they keep calling her the travel nurse? She's just a nurse that works here. So I asked her, I was like, Sandy, why do they keep calling you a travel nurse instead of just a nurse? She was like, oh, I don't live here. I'm here on contract. And so that's how I got into healthcare traveling. She started explaining to me how she got her job and how she is labeled as the traveler. So then I signed up with a travel company, and within 3 months, I was gone. So,
wow.
Yeah, I started traveling from there, and I went to Florida. Then I went to Massachusetts.
Was it better pay than what you were doing staying put?
Yes. And plus, they were paying for my housing. So I had no rent. They were paying for my medical and dental. I had nothing to pay for. The only thing was I had to work in different parts of the country whenever. I didn't have any attachment. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gone. The way everything worked out, I would always have a week off in between in contracts to find daycare for my daughter because she traveled with me.
Mm-hmm.
So we find daycare and I start work that Monday and stay somewhere for a few months and then take a week off, find daycare in another state and work there for a few months.
Sounds like a pretty good gig. You get to see different parts of the country, you get to make a good living. Then you also, like you said, health benefits. Your daughter gets to travel with you. They even allow time for you to create that work-life balance in the sense that you got to have somewhere for your child to be while you're at work. So,
Yeah. And I mean, that was a godsend because from doing that, that's how I got back on my feet. Because the hardest thing about losing stuff or going into debt, you still got to pay the current bills while you pay the bills that are overdue.
right.
So because I got the car repossessed and I got evicted, I still owe them that money.
Yeah.
So no matter how much I work,
You're still paying for the past. Right.
yeah, I wasn't making anything. I wasn't coming out of that hole. So when I started traveling, oh my gosh. And they said they could pay for housing and medical and dental. Oh my goodness. I did that for about 5 years. Credit score went up about 200 and some points. Savings account was nice. And I just got out of debt. I was, oh my God. Because it looked like it was never ending.
Right.
I mean, oh my goodness.
But you didn't do that forever. So 5 years went by and you did something different. Is that what you're doing now or what happened next?
Well, my last contract was LA. That's why I'm still here.
Okay.
So my last contract was here. By that time, my daughter was in second grade. And I just decided to stay here. My other siblings, they were all stationed in San Diego, which is 2 hours away. And I was like, okay, well, I got my brothers and sisters close, so Cali won't be so bad. So we stayed just to see if my daughter would like LA and for a little bit more stability. She always started a new school every single school year.
Right.
So I'm gonna let her try this. She doesn't like it. So
she enjoyed the instability. I think most people are thinking, oh, she needs stability. And she was doing better in a non-stable environment and seeing the world.
She does not like it. She was like, I know California is not our home. I was like, well, but I'm teaching my job and it's a pretty decent job. It's very laid back. I homeschool my daughter this year. She started homeschooling this year because I got a lot of flexibility in my job. And plus, I started my catering business last year in March in 2017. She's one of my kitchen assistants. We just did the jazz festival last weekend. It was good because it started during the week. And because she's homeschooled, she was able to go with me. And she was able to work that Friday.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about what you're teaching your daughter about money in light of all the things you've gone through and trying to put things back together after a really rough period. And how do you want to talk to your daughter about money after growing up in a household that didn't talk about money and going through those different things?
It's just her and I, it's just us two. And she's all, oh, if I have X amount of money, I'm going to buy you this, I'm going to buy you that. And I tell her all the time, I say, no, you take care of yourself first. Then you blow money on other people. Because one common thing that happens with a lot of people now, especially when I was in the military, a lot of people's parents made it seem as though their kids were supposed to be sending money back home all the time, or they're supposed to be paying for everything, or because I'm your mama, or stuff like that. And I tell my daughter, no, your mom is working and able. If you want to buy me a little something, something there now and then, of course you can do that. But your first priority is not to get your first paycheck and pay your mom's bill. Because if you pay for my entire life and my bills, you're not going to have anything left.
Right.
And I told her that I had to go through that where it didn't matter who it was in my family or even friends. If they needed money, oh, I would give it to them. No questions asked. And then when I needed that money right before I got out the military, I didn't have it. And they didn't have it to give back. So I always tell her, unless something bad happens to me, the stuff that you give me and buy for me, those are strictly gifts. You're not obligated to take care of nobody other than yourself. You take care of yourself first. Then if you have something left over, of course, out of gratitude, you always buy your mom or your dad or your granddad things, but it is not something that you're obligated to do. And I always teach her, parents are supposed to pass things on to their kids, not kids pass it back to their parents. Because your parents grow up, they make their decisions. It is what it is.
Go on, girl. Preach, preach, preach.
And I mean, I just tell her that. And I mean, I'm Southern and I grew up in a Southern Baptist church. And now we go to a non-denominational church. And I explained to her why I prefer a non-denominational church and my baby brother, because he goes to a non-denominational church also. And I tell her, I said, biblical principles, it tells you your parents are supposed to pass things on to your kids. It does not go backwards. I said, there is a verse for that. So I tell her, I said, it's not just that. I said, if you're a prayerful person, if you're working and you want God to lead your decisions, yeah, that's all of them. So all these people walking around talking about honor your mother and father, and they trying to make it seem like that means pay for something, or no, that's not what the Bible was talking about. You need to read a little further. And I tell her that a lot of kids or a lot of adults, you will see them trying to juggle their bills and their parents' bills. And nothing's wrong with their parents. It's just some parents make their kids feel like they're obligated just because they were born. That's not how it goes.
Yeah.
So I try to get her out of that and always tell her, you make sure you set something aside for yourself first. When it comes to your income, you are first. Then you take care of everybody else.
Right. So what are you doing then from a strategy standpoint? Now you said you've transitioned on, you've got stable work, you kind of got a plan. What strategies are you doing to organize your finances and to work toward your goals?
Well, I have more than one bank account. While I was traveling, when I started getting my money back together and it started looking nicer, I forgot how I heard about Capital One 360 account. Well, I have that account and there's no standing bank for it. So there's no way I can keep going pulling money out. Their ATMs, they're very limited. So you basically can't take out any money unless you're paying for it. In the beginning, I never really even used that bank account because it was never an ATM close. So I just didn't use it. There was never a standalone bank. So it made it harder for me to actually spend the money.
Right. So you had to put it out of easy reach in order to be able to save it. Okay. So that was step one. All right. What else did you do?
Well, that was basically it because I would have my money come from my regular bank account, go straight to my 360 and make sure it stays on schedule. I also opened up an investing account with the same bank with Capital One 360. Capital One, they kind of make it very difficult for you to even take your money out. So let's say my savings account is where I want it to be. If I wanted to take that money back and put it back into my account, it takes 5 days. So for me, whatever I wanted today, 5 days from now, I'm probably not even thinking about it. So I would have to take little small steps. I used to shop a lot. Now I won't buy something unless it's on sale, or I will look at something that I like. Okay, I'll come back in about 30 days and this is going to be marked down. Right. And it never failed. So I had to take little small steps until I got myself out of that hole. And now things like that, they're second nature. Unless I really, really, really want something, I already know it's going to go on sale. And I always come back and get it on sale. So I try to do little small things because I'm one of those Starbucks fiends. I got to have Starbucks. So now Starbucks is a treat. I don't go every day. I bought my own little coffee maker and I make it at home. And I mean, I got a big old thing of coffee. Right. This coffee lasts me till December. just so I can stop going to Starbucks every day. So I try to watch certain things before I make certain purchases. I'll think to myself, okay, do I need to buy this or can I just go home and cook?
No, I think you bring up a good point, though. The little things are those things that add up. Deciding not to go to Starbucks and do the coffee. That's one that we hear, the Starbucks principle, where if you stop buying the coffee and then you compound the interest, et cetera, et cetera. But in a more practical sense of it's just stop buying the coffee and buy coffee in a way that's more efficient, that you can still have your coffee and life doesn't change. So I love that. I love that you're using the basic principles to organize your finances and live your best life. So what about your catering business? You said you're full-time teaching, but you also have this catering business. So is it a goal of yours to take that full-time at some point, or is that just a side hustle?
Yes, I'm trying to do that full time and it looks like it's on track if I stay consistent. But last year was horrible. Last year was my first year. It was horrible. And I try to tell people if you want to look at where your money is going, wait till it's time to do taxes and you got to put all those receipts together to see what you spent
Mm,
so you write it off. Oh, oh, my feelings was hurt. I was like, I spent this much and didn't make. Oh my God.
right. So tell us one of the things that you spent money on. Was it marketing? Was it utensils? What?
Yes, well, I took a few classes at Art Institute. So those utensils, I already have the basic stuff to start my catering business because it comes with the class. So I didn't buy little things like that, but my money was spent on every little ebook that somebody was selling on Instagram that was supposed to guide me into 100,000 followers. That I spent money on billions and billions of ads with no method to the madness whatsoever. I spent money on little planner apps and I was subscribed to everything. Anytime somebody has, oh, subscribe to my Facebook group so we can do XYZ, I was subscribed to them. I was spending $47 a month for some group and another group was $97 a month. I would just switch it up because I was thinking that because of how things are going on Instagram, I was thinking, okay, this is the way to go. I see so and so has 600 and some thousand followers, so she must know what she's talking about. So and so has 100 and some thousand followers, so she must know, yeah, this is the guy. And it just got to the point it started piling up. And then you add on to that all of my materials and supplies that I had to actually buy to actually cater. So
Right. I think you bring up a good point, though. There's so much information out there, and entrepreneurs are the new group that's being preyed on. Everybody's an entrepreneur. It's a cool, trendy thing to be right now. And people see that and they're like, how can I capitalize on that?
exactly.
What can I do? This is an industry the same way that the people are thinking, what can I do to capitalize on millennials? They're the next generation. Anything that anyone notices as a large group of people, they're trying to find a service to fit that thing. And it seems to be, like you said, this kind of online business where you go on Canva, you create an ebook, you go on, create the 10 steps freemium, and you're selling a Facebook group, you're selling a small, get this thing for $27.99. And you're like, oh, it's just $27. And then, like you said, you're jumping, oh, it's just $97. And but before you know it, those things have added up. And you're doing it with great intentions. You're trying to grow your business, but which of these things was actually not crap? And even when it's crap, you don't really complain because it was just $27. So I think you bring up a really good point about things to be mindful of when you're pursuing entrepreneurial efforts.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that last year, that was that. And then also with selling, I did a couple of conventions where I sold my products. And I don't even know why I did this, but when I would sell my items, whether it be cakes, the cakes are a real huge seller for me. I wasn't really even doing, I went to the class and I took all classes in cost control and forgot I even went to the class.
Mm,
And I was just so anxious to just get my product out there. I wasn't even thinking about the basics. So I was just pricing things. And that's one thing that I started to notice on Instagram also. You have people selling fish plates and all this stuff. And I'm looking at the price like, are you really making money or are you breaking even or are you going under? Because
right.
it seemed like some people, they price their stuff according to what the next person has priced it to. And what I started doing before I had took my website down, well, I turned it off for a little while. And the cakes that I was selling, I changed the price. because I went back to my basic class where it showed you how to price things on your menu. How do you cost out all the ingredients? Then you cost out how much you're getting paid for your labor. Then how you cost out the packaging and the shipping. Either you include it all in the price or you add that shipping later. And it's in a nice Excel spreadsheet. It shows you exactly what your profit is. So
Mhm.
if you want to bring a certain amount in from selling a certain product, you need to be able to see it. And so that's where you can tell on social media, because like I was saying, I think I had sent you a little message once before where people will actually put a plate of food on social media and say, how much would you pay for this plate? And then set the price at that. Are you serious? And it'd be so much food on there to where this is at least a $40 plate. You got 3, 4 sides and chunks of brisket.
Right. Yeah, the consumer is never going to tell you the price that's appropriate for you to make money. They're going to tell you the price they want to pay.
Okay, and people talking about $25. No, you have 3 sides and you have brisket. There's no way this thing is only $25 and she got to bring it to you. That's gas money. Oh my gosh. But that's how a lot of people price it. They'll ask, hey, how much you think you'll pay for this plate? And that'll be the price that they set it as, or they'll set it according to the people in their area.
Right.
If so and so selling wings for this much, I'm selling wings for this much. And it doesn't work that way. I got groceries to buy and I need to know exactly how much I'm making off this plate.
So what's the one thing that you're trying to do in your catering business this year to kind of take yourself to the next level?
Well, right now, I'm going to start teaching cooking classes, hopefully around the holidays. There's a big market for that. A lot of people have been asking me how to make my cake. A lot of people have asked about my recipes. So all of the recipes that I put up on my social media, they're limited. They're up for a limited time. They come up and then they disappear. The next time you'll see it, it will be in a digital cookbook. You want the cookbook, you got to buy it.
Okay. Okay. I like that idea. You're giving it away for free, but you got to really want it. You got to be online. You got to be following me. You got to be checking it to get the good stuff. I'm giving you my real recipe that I'm using, but.
And I already have one person that said she'll buy the whole cookbook because she need one recipe out of it. I said, okay. And so she was like, I'm going to turn on my notifications so I don't miss it. I was like, oh, okay then.
Awesome.
I'm doing that and I'm learning more and more because I remember Spanish from when I was a kid, but I only remember certain words. So now I'm taking a Spanish class, a conversational Spanish class, so I can also give my classes in Spanish because that's a big market, especially in LA. So a lot of people, oddly enough, they want to learn how to cook soul food, but they don't know who to learn it from.
Right.
So I was like, oh, well, it'll be me.
That's pretty dope. I think that'll definitely take you to the next level, being able to broaden the scope of the market because, yeah, we think of soul food and you think of a very limited or niche market, but it tastes good and a lot of people love to eat it. So, yeah, being able to diversify yourself and offer it to different cultures is going to be wonderful. Okay, so now we are at what I like to call the final sprint. And I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions and you tell me the answer.
Okay.
You got $20 in your pocket right now. What do you spend it on?
Hot wings.
Ooh, hot wings. I like it. Is there a good place to get hot wings in LA?
Yes, this place called Belly Bombs.
Belly Bombs. Okay, I got to check that out when I'm next time. Okay, finish this sentence. That awkward financial moment when...
My card declined and I didn't know why.
Ah, yes, those are the awkward moments, boy. You like, try it again.
Be like, wait a minute. What happened today?
Right. What is your best money habit?
I don't spend quarters.
Ooh, I like that one. That adds up too.
Yeah.
The pennies add up. Don't throw your pennies in the trash, but saving quarters really adds up.
Yep.
Okay, what's your worst money habit?
Starbucks.
Ah, so you haven't cured it all the way. You're buying your coffee, but...
No, I got my coffee and stuff, but if they come out with a new drink tomorrow...
Right, you save, but you still a work in progress.
Exactly.
All right, something you do for fun that doesn't cost anything.
Going to Barnes and Nobles.
I like it. I like it. Okay. And last but not least, if you can share one thing with us that you would like to improve about your finances in the upcoming year.
Have more discernment about what products I purchase as far as marketing.
What's the action item that's going to make you actually do that? How are you going to follow through with that?
I think just do a little bit more reading. I think I also need to read way more reviews on certain products from real people. I've purchased a couple of products this year, but it was at the recommendation from people I personally know.
Mm. And it's gone better for you?
Yes, because I know it's not a good thing.
Awesome. It has been so great having you on the show. You have made it to the finish line, the final sprint.
Thank you.
You're now standing on the podium. You are a worth listening champion, the medal around your neck. And now it's your time to shine. So tell us a little bit about how we can support you, where we can find you. Take this moment to shout yourself out and let the listeners know.
Okay, well, you can follow me on Instagram at Oldfield and Peers. And also, my website is www.oldfieldandpeers.com. All of my recipes, my limited recipes are online. My merchandise is online. My new shirts that are called Onyxly Good are out now. You can purchase those. And no matter where you're from, I bet you there's something on that shirt that represents your culture. I can guarantee it.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, right now it's in black and orange. So go out and purchase your shirts now. Also, like I said, make sure you follow me so you can stay up to date with anything that I have coming up. And I have more food shirts coming out soon.
And all that will be listed in the show notes as well. So you can simply click and follow. Latoya, thanks so much for being on the show today.
All right. Thank you for having me. It was fun.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Latoya's money memoir. She shared with us some of the perks of joining the military right out of school, like getting paid while you're still confused about what it is that you want to do. But we must weigh both the benefits and the disadvantages of each choice we make. Our word of the day today, transition. The process or period of changing from one state or condition to another. Life is full of transitions. Graduating college, leaving or joining the military, changing jobs, getting married, buying a home, starting a family, starting a business, retiring. You guys get it. The list goes on. These life-altering events often come with big changes to your finances. If you want to have the financial future you dream of, you need to have a plan that helps you keep your finances on track during those times of transition. If you have questions, suggestions for guests, or would like to share your own money memoir, please contact us through our website, worth-listening.com. Thank you for tuning in today.